Well.
Mike Bolen,
Yeah,
second
well, hey,
episode.
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You are the first sequel to this show. Welcome back.
Yeah, great to be here.
And today we brought in a special guest co-host, Jay Doran from
Nice.
Culture Matters.
Well, I feel so honored.
We've had quite a few shows together where he's been on the Relief podcast and I've been on his Culture Matters show. Currently, he's hanging out at the Ritz-Carlton lobby, and he had an opening in his schedule. And I said, why don't you come in and hang out with a really cool person? So, Jay, welcome back to the show.
Love to meet. It's great to meet you, Mike, and very excited to get to know you and learn about culture and leadership. Clearly, it's something you're very strong in.
Yeah, we've, I opened up a private club in Orange County, California, about a year ago with a business partner of mine, Mike Cernovich. And we bought a 120-year-old historic building, acre of ground. It's gated, very, very private. And we've been going through the process of renovating that property and, restoring the historical integrity. The building's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's been sometimes you do a project and you're like, hey, this is going to be a passion project. And other times you get involved with a project and the passion project turns into, something that's a complete home run. And that's what this has been. We currently have about 80 members in the club, and I've got well over 1,100 people on the wait list to get in. It's been an incredible experience just building out, the club and getting things going. But it has hotel rooms on the second floor, parlor, meeting area on the main floor, and then in the basement we've got a walk-in humidor and wine cellar kind of thing. 1,600 square feet. And it's really an amazing property. My partner handles most of the membership, and he's just done an incredible job at curating members. But yeah, it's been very successful. We've hosted quite a few current U.S. congressmen. We've hosted several U.S. senators for fundraisers, et cetera, and then a lot of people from the creative arts.
What are the core values, would you say, of those that made the cut? Like, is it entrepreneurial tendencies, that leadership, management? Hold on, I can't hear you. What just happened? What just happened here?
I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I can hear you
There he
perfectly.
is. Okay, can you hear me?
Oh my
Can
God,
you hear
it
me?
was so good. It was good.
Okay, I can hear you now, and we lost Mike. I was asking him about his.
Are we? Okay. All right. Well, we'll add, we can edit.
Is it still record? It's still recording. Should I pause it? Yes, sir. Or we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was sharing how they started this. They bought this building and they were turning it into a club. That's a culture conversation. Now you're talking about community, man. 1,100 people and 80 people that were actually members. So, but is he coming back?
California. He'll come back. Anyway, so these freedom events, right? The first one I went to was in New York, like in 2017, and I got to meet different journalists there. Troyer from Infowars, James O'Keefe was there, some independent voices, but Antifa was outside, and they would not rent to conservative people at the time,
Wow.
because, especially in liberal cities, it would make them look bad. They would lose all their customers. Yeah. Let's see. Anyway, go ahead. So they would have these events in other cities. They had them in Florida, Nevada, and if my travels intersected with that, like their events, I would go. And on one occasion, I flew to California. It just so happened to be the same week with their event, and I went. And I brought like 3 friends from Arete with me because they're cool and free thinking, and he was cool with it, and so is Mike. This is the behind the scenes stuff.
No, but actually, I think you should post the whole episode and just show people this is what it's really like to have a podcast. How about that?
Sometimes it's brutal.
Like the real podcast. You want relief? You better get real.
The lessons are be patient, keep smiling.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What are the lessons? What are the lessons? What's the lesson? What a beautiful message. This is crazy. I can't believe we just. Here's a quote for this episode. Creativity is intelligence having fun. Albert Einstein. What could Albert Einstein have meant by creativity is intelligence having fun? I think the root lesson in that is the fulcrum or the originating point of power for intelligence to manifest utility, to discover new ideas, or develop new technologies, to lead teams, to lead culture, is exploration, curiosity, imagination. And some part of that is being on the edge between the known and the unknown in a Petersonian sense, exploring, taking, and implicit in that is taking risks, trying new things, going beyond what has already been done and maybe even mastered. And I think today's episode, in all of its idiosyncrasies, having a last minute invite, or with a degree of preparation to two parties that otherwise do not know one another. That would be myself, founder of Culture Matters and the host of the Culture Matters podcast, author of 30 Days of Thought, and our guest as a co-host and guest of the Relief podcast, actual guest of the Relief podcast, repeat guest, Mike Bolen, broker, investor, real estate investor, 2 decade plus power broker in California turned cultural activist, community facilitator, investor into this club group organization on the show together. I'm getting texts. They're coming back. Is a representation of Demetri's willingness to explore, to create, to have fun, right? And creativity is intelligence having fun. Fun, this is the thing, connotes laughter, comedy. Comedy and laughter reveal truths we are either not ready to articulate or cannot. They're on the cusp of. I've been talking to myself for like 10 minutes to try to keep the episode fresh and young and interesting. So everyone's okay. I hope you guys listen to this later.
Well, thank
and
God
you
you
can see what I was doing by
so.
myself. No, I really do. I hope you come back and listen to it later and see how I was trying to be a bridge for this. I picked a quote because I listened to your guys' podcast where you talked about creativity, Mike. And I picked a quote. Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. So Demetri's trying to have some fun by connecting us and taking risks with the show, being creative. So I was blabbering on about that for about 10 minutes. So thanks for coming.
Well, hopefully you have a great editor.
Well, you're looking at him, right? He looks great. Doesn't he look great?
Yeah. So you can just, however you want, cut, splice, it all works.
I think it's inspiring for the up and coming podcast listeners if they want podcasts. Like Demetri's a maverick, Mike. But anyway, when you were talking about this community, this membership, how there's 1,100 people on a waiting list that have desire to be a part of this village of people, and you have 80 members. So I was asking you, are there like core values that stuck out, like that the listeners could learn from, of who got picked, right? Are there certain attributes, whether it's creativity or whatever, leadership qualities, or how you distill down from 1,000 to, or 1,180 down to 80?
Yeah, I mean, if one is a history buff, you can go back and you can look at Benjamin Franklin had a private club called the Junto Club. And so in a lot of ways, we're modeled after the Junto Club. So we have pods of people that are members of the club, multidiscipline. So you'll have 4 or 5 people that are like actors or film studio guy. And then we'll have a handful of people that, let's say like 3 or 4 attorneys. And then we'll have, a handful of guys in real estate. We've got some social media influencers. But nothing in the group, no pod overpowers the entire group. So we have a lot of people in different disciplines, and then we're very cognizant of who we bring in and when we bring those people in. So, if you've already got 4 or 5 authors, and, maybe you would have one person who's wildly successful. And then you would have, a couple people that have been doing it for a decade or so and have had modest levels of success. And then maybe 1 or 2 people that are just coming into, the craft. So that's how we model it after the Junto Club. And in a lot of ways, having these multidisciplinary people that can learn from each other. And then each pod can also interact with other people within the group. So if that makes sense.
Did you ever read Walter Isaacson's book on Ben Franklin? I think it's Walter Isaacson.
I
Yeah,
have
on
not.
Ben Franklin. Man, that's such a amazing. How did you find out about the Junto? What a powerful. You're like the first person I met that I've ever talked to that knew about the Junto.
Yeah.
How'd you
It's
find out about that?
for 10
That's
years
awesome.
I did these things called thecigarnight.com with my partner, and we would travel around the country and rent out a cigar lounge and then sell tickets, 40 some odd tickets, and we did that for almost a decade. We'd go to New York and then we'd be in Miami. And then, 6 weeks later, we'd do one in Houston, just all over the country. And it was a really great way to meet people. That's how I met Demetri. So, we connected. I think you came to one of our events in Las Vegas, right?
Right, in Las Vegas and Huntington Beach, California. The
Yeah.
first one in New York City.
Yeah.
I think another one, maybe it was in Florida, but I remember the first one. Do you remember the first one? How you had to have like a secret location.
Yeah, we still did that all the way up until the last year. We would give out the location, the day of the event, simply because my business partner that I did that with, he's just got such a footprint in the political world that you just never know. You don't need any crazy showing up.
It
But I know.
says here that the. Oh, I'm sorry, Dimitri. Go ahead.
No,
I was
please
going to read about the Junto.
go ahead. Go
What were
ahead.
you going to say? Okay.
I was just gonna add one quick comment. One quick comment.
Yeah.
So I
No.
remember the first event, just the energy there, like the caliber of the people who I never knew. And I'm a shy person, right? So for me to kind of leave out of my little bubble and go somewhere, I gotta feel comfortable. So I'm going to New York, where clearly the values are a little different. At a time when things were starting to get testy, there's paid protesters outside, right? And then there's a very calm atmosphere inside.
Yes.
And you had people from all over, like somebody from Germany. You see, obviously you had panels of discussions with different leaders. James O'Keefe was present. I think maybe there was other people there that I didn't know, like 101. But either way, kudos to those events, and that's what inspired me to bring other people to future events that were
Yeah.
cool, right?
Yeah,
Again,
it's been amazing, the type of people that those events attracted over the years, and I've made a lot of lifelong friends from those events. Everybody from the famous to the infamous to the rich, the poor, everything in between. So very, very interesting, cross section of Americana, and I could go on and on about the different events and different people that you meet over the years. But yeah, and then that's translated into the club, where we have a physical facility now. So now we do those events at the club, and a lot of those people that came to those early cigar nights, a handful of those people actually have become members of the club. So
What would you say the cigar? What is cigar? The cigar culture. Does it have a? What's the culture of cigar? The cigar.
well, I think the appealing part of cigar culture is that cigars are so maligned, and it's tough to find a place where you can smoke a cigar and enjoy it, and it's an unusual hobby for most people. So when you sit down someplace and you go to a cigar lounge, it's different than going to, say, a bar or some other type of meeting place, because the one thing you have with cigars is when you sit down, the man or woman sitting across from you has a love for this thing, cigars, that basically is maligned in society today. So you have this kinship that immediately presents itself, and you can open up a conversation. Hey, what are you smoking today? What do you think of XYZ cigar? And so it's a great, any time that I'm traveling, I always end up going to a cigar lounge somewhere where I'm traveling. And the people that I've met doing that just on my own by myself is really incredible. You have to have a certain level of, and I don't want to use the word stature, but you have to have a certain level of, I guess, social awareness, and the ability to sit down for an hour, cut, light a cigar, smoke it, and spend $30, $40, even $150 on a single cigar plus a beverage, right? So it's not a cheap I mean, sure, you can smoke a $3 cigar, but you're probably not going to enjoy it. But I think that more than anything, it's not the cost of the cigar, but it's the fact that the cigar weeds out people that can't, in the middle of their day, on 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, go and spend 90 minutes at a cigar lounge. There's not a lot of people that can do that, right? And so if you go into a cigar lounge at Tuesday at 2 o'clock and you spend 100, you're able to go in there and spend 90 minutes or 2 hours sitting there chatting with other people, you're a special kind of person. There's something unique about you. There's a reason why you're able to do that. And so to me, that's the essence of cigar culture, is that it attracts a certain level of user that is very difficult to replicate in, most other pursuits.
What I take from that is if one is in a position in ownership of their time with the means, it infers that maybe they've done something productive for other people.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
in an entrepreneurial or even in a labor sense, maybe they've done something for others at some point that put them in a time. I've never thought of it in this way before. It's I can't wait till my next one.
Yeah, well, you're
Now,
able to organize your life in such a manner that you can afford both the time and the money for this pursuit, right? And so, why is that? And why is that person able to do that? So, it's kind of an interesting. It's something interesting to quantify. Why is that? And so,
I
I
wonder
have.
if that can help people build soft skills, because if you're there in one of those places, I mean, you could just not talk to anybody, but if you're sitting next to somebody for 90 minutes and you don't talk to them, you better learn how to talk to somebody.
Yeah, I
You're
think
kind
you're
of,
going to get the most out of it, obviously, if you do that. And I've made some wonderful lifetime friends from folks I've met at the cigar lounges and that I've gone to. And I do think it's great for people of all ages that maybe have a little bit of shyness or a little bit of apprehension about being social with people, that brings that out. You do have this commonality of a cigar that you have its passion for, right? They spent money on it. It's an interesting hobby. It's much like wine. You can talk about the terroir of where the tobacco came from and how the cigar is constructed. How is the cigar marketed? What's the price point? What are the economics of that cigar? And so there's a lot of different elements to the cigar that you can explore with another person. And I find it fascinating on all those fronts. So there's a lot of reasons to enjoy a cigar far beyond nicotine.
I found an interesting fact about the Junto. It says the first public library in America was the Library Company of Philadelphia. The Junto came several important from the Junto came several important institutions. The
Yes.
first public library, the first volunteer fire department, early models for community improvement and mutual aid. Whoa.
Yeah.
How about that? The Junto.
Well,
You
in the
knew that?
1 year that we've been doing, that we've had the club, we've had, we have these different pods of people, right? And so one of these people that's from a pod that's completely unrelated to filmmaking has stepped up and put a large sum of money into two film projects of other members within the club. So, and that's, pulling culture forward. These movies are interesting. They're not fiction. These are documentary films. And it's very interesting to see how a small group of people can affect culture in such a way.
Demetri?
I mean, when you talk about culture, like you've built high performance teams, right? And talk about what it takes today if you're starting out in sales, right? If somebody walked into your office cold and said, "I would like a career in sales," what kind of regimen would you like want to run them through to see if they're even capable of doing the work that it takes to survive in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, listen, real estate's tough, right? And it's not getting any easier. I mean, I think you would certainly agree on that. The brokerage model is being attacked from every angle, both online, lawsuits, legal, government regulation, the end unit consumer. I mean, everybody is attacking the real estate brokerage model. It doesn't mean that it's dead. I certainly, over the years, have worn a lot of different hats in real estate, from managing broker, a broker associate, salesperson, etc. I certainly haven't done it all, but I've done a lot. What I'm always looking for, I think, especially as I've gotten older, is I look at time, right? How much is time worth? Time's something you can't get back, right? Money, you can lose it and get it back. You can have a bad month and make it up the following month, but time, you can't do that. And so that's something that for decades, I've been searching for within our sales teams is how do we maximize our time? And it wasn't until like very recently that I did find something that I think I wish I would have found 10 or 15 years ago in my brokerage, career. We have to look at commissions, right? So how much are you getting paid to sell something? And then how much are you competing with other people to sell that thing? How much are you competing to get the listing, et cetera? And there are a lot of different ways that you can skin the cat, so to speak. You can, specialize in condominiums, mobile homes, land, luxury real estate, which so many agents try to go in and, go after that luxury real estate. One thing that I think is really interesting, if you look at the statistics, there's 1.2 million licensed real estate agents in the United States, 4,500 business brokers in the United States. And business brokerage, I think, is one of those things that has a long tail on it and very, very little competition. We have found that business brokerage has elevated our business, helped us to maximize our time. We earn more money in less time doing business brokerage transactions than we do on residential real estate, with a lot less competition. And so it's a very, very technical the brokerage business, extraordinarily difficult to get into. But once you crack that code and figure out, what are the legalities of that, there's a reason why there's 1.2 million realtors and only 4,500 business brokers, because it's an intense business. It's very, very difficult, very litigious. But we've been working on that model for several years, and it finally perfected a model that works. And this month alone, we're going to do 180,000 in commission income on business brokerage deals. So it's an interesting pivot. Not to say that the brokerage doesn't still do residential or land or mobile homes or investment properties, absolutely. But I really like where we're going on the business side model. So it's kind of a long answer to question, but we're trying to maximize our time, right? So as a salesperson, you want to maximize your time and you get the most leverage for each hour that you spend. And so with business brokerage, we've cracked that code, if you will, where there is a way to get extraordinarily high commissions, virtually zero competition, have clients who are thankful for your service, not threatening to sue you at the end of the transaction, like you get in a lot of residential transactions, right? So we're very bullish on where we're taking that model.
By business brokerage, you mean selling small businesses?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different elements to it, but yeah, it's essentially that's it. We go in and we help people that own a business.
And is this nationwide or geographic to California where you are?
There's only a handful of states that even require a license to do it. So some states do, I have 2 offices in California. So California has a requirement for a license. Some states do, some states don't, but that's just, one of those things. Folks, you can go and you can check out like my Instagram or, I don't want to bore you guys with details on,
we love the details.
But yeah, I feel like our team's worked really hard over the past 3 years through trial and error. It's an extraordinarily difficult, I don't want to downplay how difficult it is to get into that line of work. It is very, very difficult. There is a reason Why? Again, you have 1.2 million licensed realtors who are selling houses, and you only have 4,500 people doing businesses. There's a reason why. It's not easy to get into, it's highly litigious. Most agents shouldn't be doing it. But for those that, you know, feel like they have the chops, if you will, and have the mental, fortitude to do it, and can follow, can follow policies and standard operating procedures. There's a lot of money. And I think we've got a great model that does that.
Do you remember your first real estate transaction?
Yeah, I mean, my story goes way back. I mean, I was a restaurant owner, and I owned several restaurants, and I hated that business. I did not like the restaurant business, although it was lucrative. I just didn't like it. But I happened to the very first restaurant I opened. I begged, borrowed, stole money to buy that $400,000 building, and I opened up an IHOP franchise, and that's I made my first million at 28 in selling that, but I didn't make it off of selling the business. I made it off of selling the real estate that was underneath that business. And that's what, opened my eyes many years ago to real estate and why real estate was the way to go. And then over the years, pivoted more and more into the real estate industry. So yeah, that very first transaction, I had a couple small ones before that, but that was the big in real estate.
An IHOP? Like
Yeah,
the pancake place?
you got it.
That's fascinating. Demetri, you eat there, don't you?
Not as often as I used to, but
You guys like that Dunkin' Donuts there, man.
oh, you're talking to a different crowd. I mean, like before the call, a man came up who's a loyal Ritz Carlton servant and brought him like a coffee. Right.
Yeah,
That wasn't something from a Starbucks. That was something that they probably ground up, they serve with pride, and they make sure that it's good. I think that stands apart, and I think that when we say things like Dunkin' and Wawa, like it's convenience, right? We want curated. I prefer diner coffee, made by the Lacus family, like here in the Philadelphia area. So because then you're getting it served in a mug, right? And as opposed to a paper cup, like that experience matters. Like when you're if you're having a drink to pair with your cigar, you want to have a nice bourbon. You don't want to have just the house garbage. Like you want to
exactly
enjoy
right.
it. I mean, what is your preferred like cigar or bourbon pairing that you like lately?
For me, I'm always trying different liquors to pair with cigars. I'm not a big drinker. I used to drink more regularly. Now I really only drink maybe an ounce or a half an ounce when I'm smoking a cigar on a Friday. Like today we're hosting a happy hour from 4 to 6. At the club, and so you know, both myself and my partner Mike, neither one of us drink a lot. Yeah, certainly not like what we used to. But I'll still get out a 18-year-old Yamazaki or a 20 or 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. Right now, last week we tried some Armenian brandy, which was interesting. Who knows? People bring stuff to the club, they leave it. It's very expensive. I'm not buying it, but I'm happy to drink it. If it's with a cigar, some things work and some things don't. But it ultimately comes down to what's better than the company, right? It's all about who you're smoking with and not necessarily what you're smoking. Although I refuse, if I'm going to take a health risk, like smoking cigars, I absolutely refuse to smoke a shitty cigar. It's going to be a high quality cigar, right?
Are there like go to 3 or 4 that you could recommend to give
I mean,
relief
well,
to our
listen, I
listeners?
think that, like most people will tell you, oh, I love Cubans. And if anybody tells you I smoke Cubans, well, they don't smoke cigars. Because if you smoke a Cuban cigar, then tell me what it is. And they almost never can, you know? So that's like people's default. But the best cigar, if, and again, this speaks to, how poorly the communist economic model is, without getting too political here, but you can take a Cohiba Siglo 6 Tubo, which is widely considered one of the finest cigars in the world. It is a Cuban cigar. The problem with a Cohiba Siglo 6 Tubo is that I'll smoke one and it's, like being in heaven. And then I'll smoke another one, sometimes from the same box. Totally different experience. It's crap. For a $300 cigar, $180 cigar, it's not consistent. And when they're on, boy, they are the best. They really, really, truly are. Cohiba Siglo 6 Tubo is the best, in my opinion. But to get a Cohiba Siglo 6 Tubo, and it's authentic, it's actually a Cuban, it's not a counterfeit, and that they just can't deliver the quality. The communists can't do it. Now, if you go over to an Arturo Fuente and their Opus X line, the Oro Oscuro Yellowfoot is probably the best cigar in the world, in my opinion. There is none better. It's a perfect cigar, perfectly constructed. And the cigar is just every time it's the same experience, right? It's like going to Peter Luger's steakhouse. You're going to pay for it, but you know that you're going to get the best ribeye aged, for X number of days, and it's always going to be the same, right? And that's the way that the Opus X, Oro Oscuro, and almost anything in the Opus X line is exceptional. I like a little bit more of a lighter cigar that's still full bodied, like a Opus X Angel Share, another fantastic cigar. Partagas number 4, Series B, those are great cigars, a Cuban. But again, you have to make sure that you're getting an authentic. So, those are some of my go-tos. But the Opus X Oro Oscuro, it is possible to buy those. They're difficult to obtain, but not as hard as a Cuban cigar. And you know that you're going to get a good one. So I don't know.
Where is this club, by the way?
We're located we're in Orange County, California, Southern California, about halfway between San Diego and Los Angeles.
And is there? You said that there's a happy hour. Happy hour, is that some part open to the public, or more so intro only? Like Mary or
The
Mark
club is
says, hey.
Club's completely private. It's not open to the public at all. We're fenced, gated. We're on top of a hill. All of our events have, armed security. It's a very private, exclusive experience by invite only. All of our members that join the club have to be sponsored by other members to get in. And, members can bring guests, but it's nothing's open to the public on club grounds. It's completely.
Have you ever been to Philly?
I have been to Philly a few times, yeah.
No, I'm here right now, and there's a union, the Union League. I was there the other day, and the history, and it's like you're building one of those. I'm right across the street from it, essentially, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's going to be a ongoing demand for live events. There's going to be an ongoing demand for private clubs, in-person space. I think that we're all, so sick of the 2020 COVID thing. And now we're 5 years past that. And you have an entire generation that missed their best part of their high school years and grew up in that bullshit. And as those folks start to make money, Gen Z, I think that they'll really go for in-person live experiences. And so I think that the forward outlook for quality, high-end private clubs, I think is exceptional. It's really, really good. And I think that we're on the very, very ground level of that with what we're doing. We saw a trend before it became a trend, and we got on it. We got a killer facility building, very proud owners of that. And, we're building something very unique and very special. So
will you do more in other locations?
It's something that we've been approached with, but we haven't perfected what we have yet. We're only a year in. So, maybe in a year or two, we would look at that, but it's not anything that we're focused on. Yeah. Hey guys, I'm going to have to sign off here. I've actually got to run over to the club and take care of a couple of things. I've got some contractors there. So you guys know how that goes in the construction of real estate.
Well, any closing thoughts? One final thing. Any closing thoughts on how the average entrepreneur or just a person who works can kind of keep a settled mind? Because I'm going to quote from Marcus Aurelius that, a person like you, like him, has power over his mind, and not outside events, right? And in that we all find strength. So How would you recommend other people kind of find their strength in chaotic times when the news events kind of hijack our attention?
I think that relationships are important. Relationships with like-minded people. It ties back to the club. We have out of the membership that we have, 80% of our members are from out of state. They're not California-based people. They come to our club for our quarterly events. They'll rent a hotel room for the night at the club and hang out, for a week and go to the beach, etc. So I think that having, a community of people that are like-minded helps keep you grounded. And if they're high caliber, high quality people, you can bounce ideas off of them. So I think that's really important. And then I think it's also important to look at trends. Okay. And dovetailing with what I said before, if I were going to advise one of my children, I wouldn't advise them to become a licensed realtor and sell houses. I think that is not where the future is in real estate brokerage. But I do think that there's opportunity in doing alternative things, like I said, like the selling businesses rather than selling houses. And, so it's finding that right thing that works for you, exploring that. If you have to, you hire somebody who can teach you, that process, and then get involved with, an organization, whether that be the Kiwanis or, a church group or a private club or whatever that is. So focus on things that are coming and focus on, having relationships with high caliber people.
Well, thank you
Mike,
so
great
much
to meet you.
for being on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
likewise.
pleasure. I'm so glad to introduce the two of you because I think a lot of times good people need to meet good people.
Yeah, and connect with me on Instagram. We can stay connected there. So it'd be great to do that. My Instagram is just super simple. It's real Mike Bolen. Oddly enough, there's other Mike Bolens out there. So I am the real Mike Bolen.
Well,
So it's
you are.
real Mike
Very-
Bolen, Bolen. Just connect with me on Instagram. That's what I tell everybody. Just go there because that's easier than the website or anything else. Everybody's got the freaking Instagram. So
well, thanks for being on and give our regards to our friend Mike. And
will
I
do.
look forward to having you on again in the
Yes, and
future.
Dimitri, you got to come out. Come out to one of our events, man. We got stuff
When's
going
the
on.
next one? When's the next one?
December, I believe it's December 20th or 21st. Is a Saturday before Christmas. We're doing a Wagyu wine and whiskey dinner, and then we've got a huge cigar night with a couple hundred people in the front yard and around the entire mansion. So love to have you out for that, folks. You can, yeah, anybody can grab a ticket for that. thecigarnight.com. You can always go there, and if there's tickets still available, you can buy a ticket there and come out for a cigar night, just like you've done in years past.
Count us in. I
Yeah.
can't wait to be there.
All right, cool, man.
Thanks
Well,
so
great
much,
connecting
man.
with you guys.
Pleasure, man. Weekend.
Bye bye.
Demetri, I guess what's the takeaway? How do we discern wisdom from this
You see, like
communal engagement here
here's some
as we
wonderful nuggets.
close?
I'm glad you're present here for this, right? Because you curate rooms just like you did recently, right? Across the street from where you are now, just a few weeks ago, right? Bringing on people who've been guests, friends, people who need to meet other people, and that's what I kind of did informally here, right? We had a little technical snafus, but we picked up, and the conversation flowed, and it was smooth, and we were at ease, and nobody had a cigar, but you can imagine what it's like to be at those events where everybody's kind of welcome. You're kind of cool. You're definitely safe because there are high profile people who are kind of afraid, and they know, again, just in light of what we covered in our Charlie Kirk episode. You don't want to just show up anywhere and be not safe. In the places that he's curated before, these places are vetted. They're safe. There's security around, and that's it. And then you're left to just kind of be chill. And if you're not chill, guess what? You're not invited to the next event. You're not. Those ideas of like, oh, you can just afford the membership fee and we'll keep you here. No, that's a cancer to the.
Interesting, actually. Do you think that type of short-sightedness, or that reveals a certain value system, money over people, or like self over customer? Do you think, as a consequence of the polarizing times that we're in our culture, those that gather people will be less able to get away with that type of money grab? Because as we become a more tribal society, people will not want to be near physically those that share different belief structures, core values, ways that they view the world. So like the short-sighted money grab community builder won't even be able to do that, because if they don't artfully curate the room, the people are going to literally start punching each other in the face and spitting on each other and clawing each other. It's a fleeting thought that just kind of comes to mind it's like interesting, because when we're the more polarized the society, the less civil people can be that share different theologies,
Yes, I'm noticing that.
values, different political orientations. So yeah. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that? That's more of a
I
philosophical.
mean, I feel like, gosh, I mean, we were tribal, right? We were ethnocentric states in Europe. There were hundreds of tribes in America before, people came here and killed them or forced them to move. They existed this way. It was fine to have a culture. It was fine to have this heritage to be proud of and honor to your work. So um, right now it's values, right? Diversity of opinion, right? Is it welcome? In these types of places, it's welcome. So you mentioned Franklin. I mean, you know about the City Tavern, right? Down in the old city, where the
Is
founding fathers gathered. Again, it may not be
Yes,
open now, but
yes,
it had been open a few times over the years. But it was a place where the founding fathers gathered, and they had ale and food, and talked about the plans for revolution. They took a strong stand. People who had nobility, maybe were friends with the crown, could stand to lose everything, their family, their money, their lives, just to kind of sign a declaration of freedom. And the first event we went to in New York that Mike hosted with Mike Cernovich was called A Night for Freedom. So it was pretty bold. And you couldn't advertise an address, because then there'd be attackers, there'd be protesters. Some of them paid and curated, and some of them just naturally angry. And again, just like the Charlie incident, it boiled, simmered, it rose in temperature until it became this boil. So here you just want to kind of simmer down and say, you know what, where can reasonable minded, intellectual type people gather and just have a nice conversation? So, I see that as the evolution of maybe events that you're going to host in the future, anywhere and anytime you want.
well, I'm honored to be on your show today, my friend. It was a exciting journey. I hope you. I would love your feedback on when we had that mix up. I think that was also maybe very.
I think we handled it well.
I think it makes the show better for the one student that wants to really like. I think you did something very brave and courageous today, and exemplified leadership, bringing two people that you respect and have admiration for and care for a relationship together on a show live and just figuring it out. So I think that's a very like if this was on the Culture Matters podcast, I would be harping on that for the next hour, because that's like it's all about action, taking action. So we'll have
Well,
to
I,
do
I, I
a
appreciate
show where you come on the show and then we just talk about our what we thought from watching it again, the raw footage. You know what I'm saying? But I actually, when you left, I tried to keep it going, and so I'd
Oh,
like your feedback on that too. But I look forward to next time.
build that.
Okay.
That's gold. That's gold. Any wisdom from you, again, if it's quoted by others, it's useful. So and helpful. And that's the point here, is to have conversations where maybe sometimes you don't know what to say, but sometimes by being still and silent, you're learning something from somebody else. In a lounge, in a cafe, and now you're off to the next adventure. So thanks again for joining us, and we do appreciate the questions that you asked. They were quite insightful, and again, I don't know about you, but I feel pretty compelled to go there in December and meet
Yeah.
great people
Well,
at that
always
event.
great to meet people
And if
and
it fits
have
your
an
calendar,
interesting
come join.
conversation.
Certainly.
See you soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks again. Peace. All right. Recording's over.